Up second on our app showcase tonight, we've got Matthew Jesuele. Matthew is the co-founder and lead developer of Mooch, which is a communication and collaboration platform for college students based in central Los Angeles. Mooch is currently in public beta at several schools in Southern California. Before starting Mooch, Matt spent several years working as a freelance developer and a programming tutor in New York and LA. And his almost non-existent free time, which I'm sure people here are familiar with. He likes to travel, make and listen to music, train for powerlifting, and go on long walks and hikes whenever possible. So, everybody, please give a very warm welcome to Matt.
Cool. Thank you for the intro, Nick. So I wanted to show you guys this thing I'm working on. But first, I was looking out at the audience, and I found myself wondering, how many of you guys are developers that work with Meteor every day? Okay, good chunk of you. How many of you have your own companies or apps? Good chunk of you. Okay, cool. And how many of you are like pre-production or like early stage, still small? Okay, cool, a few of you. All right, great. So that's kind of where we're at. We're calling this our public beta. We're a messaging app for students. You can call us Slack for college students. We call ourselves that sometimes. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you the app. And then, actually it's kind of cool that Sean was talking about the scaling challenges that they had at Classcraft, because we're kind of on the other end of that. So he was talking about after like 18 months of growth, how they've coped with all those, all their new users. We're just getting our first users now. So we're running into problems that we didn't know we had. We figured we were going to have problems, but it's been interesting to see what they are. So I don't have too much to show as far as the app. I mean, you can roll through, you can kind of sign up. So I'm just gonna, I think there's already a few users, so I'm gonna make. And then if you do end up playing with the app, you can go to it at learntomooch.com and you can actually go on yourself. Eventually it's gonna require a real university email address, but right now you can kind of fake it and get on whatever university you want to. For testing, and like with people who don't go to universities, we usually have them make up mooch.edu email address, and that'll bring you into what we call Mooch University. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna upload a photo, and then it was in. Boom. Okay, cool. So you can get into the app with. Boom. So this is what Mooch looks like. It's about what you expect. You can send messages. You can upload files. We've obviously taken a lot of inspiration from Slack as far as the UI UX. People can post, these sort of discussion-oriented posts, which people can comment on and things like that. Things are pretty much what you would expect with this. We're still building out features. We're getting comments from users all the time, like, "Hey, why doesn't it do this? The way it does this is bad. I don't understand this." A lot of those things have been really interesting. We've retooled the way that things work in the sort of. So actually, at first, we had this idea that like, if a bunch of people. The first school that we're targeting is the University of Southern California, and I think they have something like 30,000 undergraduates. So we were thinking, like, if we get a bunch of students from a university on Mooch and they're chatting in this university, this university stream, this university chat, we were thinking it was going to get hectic pretty quickly, and like we were trying to figure out ways that we could kind of limit the discussion that was going on in there. Like, at first we had this idea that these sort of discussion-oriented posts were the only thing that you could post in the university stream, kind of creating like a barrier to posting a little bit to try and cut down on the volume. And we realized really quickly that that was a bad idea. In general, we realized that we don't want to get in the way of our users. When they see this, like they log in, they see this thing, they see this text box, and they want to start typing. So we realized we totally had to let them do that. So that's been interesting, learning what our users want. But really, we've just been sort of learning where the fragile bits are. Since actually getting users, we have had to go in. So, we're using Kadera. we've had to go in and look at several of our method calls. And a few of them, like, you can, when you enable op logs, Mongo op logs, you get like that nice trace of where all the time is happening, in your method execution. And so like some of our queries were just taking an absurdly long time to run. We realized a number of times that we were making queries we didn't need to make, including some expensive ones, and it was interesting to see which ones were actually expensive. It wasn't always the ones that we thought it would be. What else? Yeah, just in general, geez, I completely blanked on what I was going to say about method calls. Oh, do you want to?
What are the people talking about?
What are the people like? They're saying like, what they want.
No. What are they discussing?
Actually, that's a good question. We can kind of find out. Yeah, let's go scope it out. Am I in? No, I'm in. And actually, hey, we see Nick popped in the other day. Let's get out of here. I think. Cool. So now this is, so actually you see a lot of this is from last semester. So the semester at USC has started relatively recently. And actually, let me see if I can find, geez, what were they called? Was it this? So my partner has been hard at work. No, the only other guy in here is the other developer. My partner's been hard at work getting actual classes onto this thing. I can't remember. No. David Craig, yeah, let's see. Where is this guy? No classes. Okay. So yeah, no, this guy is actually, he's got a couple of his classes on Mooch, but at the moment I can't tell where they are. I think he might have 2 user accounts. So it's like, we're definitely tightening things up and finding lots of problems as we work with our first users.
Where do you host?
So right now it's hosted on AWS. We use Mongo Lab for our database, but it's interesting to hear about the limitations of AWS and how we're, so the things that Sean was talking about, I assume we're going to run into those same problems. So it was interesting to hear how they dealt with them by changing away from stock AWS. But that's what we're using at the moment, yeah. There's really nothing too sophisticated going on yet. We've really just gotten this out to users recently.
What's behind the name Mooch?
So my partner has had an idea for something in the education space for a little while now. And originally, actually, the idea behind Mooch was more like Spotify for textbooks or whatever. And you can kind of see like the name Mooch making even more literal sense in that case. Now that idea turned out to be relatively short-lived because in talking to publishers, we realized that they were not going to do business at any numbers that made sense for a small startup. So we had always had the idea of having social features baked in, right? So even when it was based around textbooks, the idea was that students would be able to like share what they were reading, comment on things that other people were reading, things like that. And then we eventually realized that, like, hey, maybe we still have something without the textbooks. Like maybe if we sort of, build these social features, the chat and sharing functionality that, students could find this useful the same way that we find Slack useful every day when we're building this thing. So, yeah, the name just kind of stuck. We just held on to it. Yeah.
Other questions?
What's the most challenging thing with Meteor that you found?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. The most challenging thing that we found with working with Meteor, so the Meteor ecosystem's been in a state of flux recently, I think. So when we first started writing, so the code base that we're looking at now started in July, I think. But before that, we'd written a couple, we'd had some false starts. And the first couple were written in Blaze. This was like when Meteor packages were the only way to get dependencies into your app, or at least the only sort of officially sanctioned way of getting dependencies in your app. So no NPM yet or anything, at least not on the client, not that we knew about. So then when we rebuilt this starting in July, we chose React, and I love working with React. So that's been really great. The NPM integration has been improving, but that's still been kind of a rocky road, I think. Like we use Browserify right now to pull in a lot of dependencies, which adds a lot of build time, and that's actually been kind of an error-prone process too, and like trying to figure out exactly how to configure that. Documentation isn't always comprehensive. So I'd say it's just how quickly things are changing, for the most part. Yeah.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Cool.
I saw that you could query for the classes that you are in.
Yeah.
How did you get those classes? Did you scrape the university side? Or?
Yeah. So actually, USC makes it very easy.
Question.
Oh, sorry. He asked. So we have data for the classes that you can search for your classes, and there's already data pre-populated in there. And asked how we got that. So yeah, we scraped it. So our target schools are all, we just have a few target schools in Southern California, and the main one is the University of Southern California. And they actually are cool. They make all their class schedules available as Excel spreadsheets. And they're all in the course catalog with the same formatted file name and things like that, right? So that was actually really easy. But it's interesting you ask, because in the future, we're going to have to deal with figuring out how to pull this information and then actually where to store it and when to actually pre-populate it. Because right now, actually, we just pulled code that was pre-populating 30,000 classes, which is a semester's worth of classes at USC, and actually turning them into chats in the app before anybody was even in them. And we realized that was not smart, and that was actually leading to some serious performance problems. So yeah, the class data has been an issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cool.